made a big change in gameplay and features and what you can do, multiplayer co-op from 1 to 2. Have there been any, I mean, the weapon wheel's back.
Sure.
Other than that, what's new, what's back, what have you done in 3?
Yeah, well, let me go back and say, sequels are very difficult because there's a balancing act that you have to do, because if you change too much, like we did with Resistance 2, fans of the original get really mad. And if you don't change enough, fans of the original get really mad. So we changed a lot. We're kind of ADD as developers, and we want to do something different. I mean, our attitude is basically, if you really liked Resistance 1, go play it. It's still here. The servers are still up. And we just want to make a different experience. But at the same time, we're making a franchise. And so with Resistance 3, we did have to kind of like look at Resistance 1 and Resistance 2 and say, how can we make it kind of a greatest hits? What are we going to bring from 1 and 2 that will help bridge the gap between these? And this definitely does feel like we are kind of going back to our roots in some aspects. It has its own identity, but it's not way out of the franchise kind of field.
Well, you're in a completely different marketplace now. I mean, Resistance Fall of Man was a launch title for the PS3. Now you've got a $250 system. Did that change the way you approach the product?
You know, no, it didn't at all.
It seemed to surprise you with that. Was like,
I
shit.
hadn't even thought about that. That's fantastic. No, it's interesting. Launch title is hard. It's very, very hard. That's it's one of those things where professionally it was my Mount Everest, just personally, that I think everybody kind of wants to work on an original IP. Everybody kind of wants to work on a launch title. But I feel like I've done that now, and I don't need to do it ever again.
Well, you're making a game for early adopters. It's a completely different crowd.
And everything's changing. I mean, that's the harder part is you're creating data on a system that doesn't exist with tools that don't exist.
With source codes that don't exist.
Nothing exists, and you're building everything, and so you're constantly like having to change everything. And it's like building a house on quicksand. You just don't know what to do on any given day. So we didn't change our philosophies or anything. We definitely have learned a lot in that time. I mean, it's been almost 7 years since I've been working on Resistance, and man, I feel like we've put out like 8 or 9 games on the PS3 already from the studio, Insomniac. When All for One goes out, so we know the system really well, and I feel like that's been the biggest thing is we can get into the real bare bones, nuts and bolts, low level processing of the PS3 and take advantage of that. And that's been the biggest difference.
Now, bit of a lore point question. You say these towers have been here on Earth for a long time.
Yes.
Now, the names of the Chimera, Daedalus, they're Greek. Was that intentional?
It was intentional in that Ted Price, our creative director on Resistance 1 and 2, was a Princeton-educated English major. He's a science fiction guy, and he just has classical roots. And I think that the people that have been involved in the writing side and creative side from early on, that's just where they come from. And so, we didn't want to have to make up. I guess you didn't have to make up new names that might sound. It would be so sad if we came out with like the Spelunker, and you're trying to sound tough, and go to the roots. Mythology's got them; they're already there.
So with the ending of Resistance 2, when you sat down to do 3, did you know where you were going, or it was like, oh, shit, we got to do something?
We knew where we were going at that time, and then a lot changed. I became creative director. I was project manager on the earlier ones. We had a brand new lead designer. We had a brand new writer. We had, there's a lot of turnaround where everybody was moving to different projects and kind of going around. So, we want to bring our own thing to it as well. So I think we kind of took the big picture moments that were planned all along and then made them our own.
Do you like playing in this sandbox of what broken nostalgia, so to speak? You still have the women and children first ethic in the game, but the 1950s is trashed.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love that. I've always loved that kind of in the art world too, of juxtaposing. Like, the best thing about the 50s is the promise and the hope and the dreaminess of the advertising. And to me, that's the best thing, is to have this, car commercial of a billboard that's just promising the good life and how everything is going to be luxurious and awesome. Set in this world of, desperation and oppression. I love that.
Do you find it interesting working on this for so long? You guys were one of the first people to jump in on that broken nostalgia trend. Do you find it interesting that the high-tech world in general, with games like BioShock and things like that, they've jumped on that bandwagon?
I think those games are all very different. I think we definitely wanted to kind of set ourselves apart from other games, and that's why we went for that. Originally Resistance 1 was like a space opera shooter sci-fi, hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
And we kind of took a right turn at one point because it just seemed like we'd done that before. Everybody kind of was like, I've been here before. So we started exploring different time periods and ideas of Earth, not Earth. I think there's that fantasy of familiar, is what Brian Hastings, one of the owners, likes to call it. And it's true that like you want to have that basis of, I recognize this, but it's foreign enough to me that it's a fantasy and kind of fulfilling that aspect. So I think that's kind of the groundwork that we laid, but I don't think that we spend too much time wallowing in that as well. Like the alternate history sets a time period, but it doesn't necessarily, like all of our backstory elements, like on the webpage and on the novels and all that, they get much deeper into kind of the details of the what if alternate histories than the game itself. Because at the end of the day, you just want to tell a compelling A story, and you want to shoot stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the first person experience. And so we didn't delve too much into that stuff. But I love BioShock, and I think what they did is fantastic.
That's actually where I was going with it, because you have to, gameplay's king. I mean, it's got to be fun.
Yep.
Did you ever hit a point in the development where you're just like, you know what? I don't care how this works or why it happens. It just is, screw it, build the game.
Yeah, constantly. I actually have a little hand-printed card that I keep at my desk that says, it's a video game. And it's my video game card, and I play it whenever things come up, because we will spend hours arguing points, And I mean, one of the things that came up earlier today was somebody talking about how when they were in a Chimeran-occupied area and they found ammunition for human weapons, how that just drove them insane. And I understand that from a thematic standpoint, but at the same time, if you're making a game where you basically are saying, look, game player, you're in this location now, you can't use any human weapons. You're stuck with only these weapons. Then we're going against our theme of player choice.
Right.
So player choice was the game we're making. We want to give you all the tools that you can, and we don't want to it would be like saying, okay, you can paint any picture you want, but we're going to take these colors off the palette. Good luck. It's too hamstrung. So at that point, you kind of break theme in order to go with gameplay.
Right, because that's a comment that I've been getting a lot too. Well, where do they get the weapons from? Where do the Chimera get the weapons from?
I mean, we have a weapon wheel where you can hold like a ridiculous number of weapons. Where do they keep those?
Right.
I mean, don't think about it too much. Just enjoy it.
All you guys who make ultra-violent games are always so zen. Is that related?
Yeah, we probably get a lot of our aggressions out daily.